Our mission is to maintain and strengthen high-quality public services, programs, and structures that promote thriving communities and prosperity for all Iowans. The recession over the last couple of years has had a major impact upon Iowa and upon our state government. We've had across-the-board cuts to essential services as overall state investments in education, which is about 60% of our state budget, have been cut back, with impacts upon our schools, community colleges, and universities. These have weakened overall investments in our people. They also have eliminated important jobs that we now need to reestablish in education, in public safety, and in essential services for our children, grandchildren, and their families and grandparents. With a $1 billion budget surplus today in Iowa, we must now make strategic reinvestments in the very systems that make Iowa a great place to live and an attractive place for business to grow. Iowa has one of the lowest rates of uninsured children in the country because we have made public investments in their health, but we still have about 40,000 children without health coverage, and we need to finish the job of ensuring they get health services they need. Iowa has a community college system that provides a wide array of post-secondary educational opportunities for our youth. But because of insufficient state support, we also have one of the highest tuition rates in the country. Too many of our children cannot afford to go beyond high school to get the skills they need for careers in the new economy at our universities and community colleges. Iowa has a high rate of high school completion and basic skills among its adult workforce, but a high school education is not enough to get a job that pays enough to raise a family or creates a workforce that attracts the businesses of the future. Next legislative session, it will be critical for lawmakers to look at how to invest in our future, restore our education system to world class, and ensure public services are dependable and of high quality. If we do that, our economy will continue to grow. This also means we cannot squander the surplus that we have on new tax breaks or subsidies to lure business. We need a sound and fair tax structure and one that provides a level playing field. We cannot race to the bottom in our efforts to lure businesses looking for quick tax breaks rather than a productive workforce and good public services. Iowa's overall taxes on businesses are already low in comparison with other states, particularly because we have enacted an increasing array of unproven tax breaks and subsidies. We need to review these and get rid of those which don't work or make sense, like the film tax credit, before we adopt more or provide additional across-the-board cuts to business taxes. Candidates for state office like to talk right now about their role in economic development through attracting businesses, but study after study shows that there is little state government can actually do to affect individual business decisions. When Iowa lawmakers have tried to be an investment banker, venture capitalist, or stock picker, they have often squandered precious state resources. The role of our state government is to support education and other essential services that make Iowa an attractive place to grow. If we build it, meaning a strong and prosperous climate for business, they will come and grow and expand. Our first speaker today is Sue Dinsdale, Executive Director of Iowa Citizen Action Network and an Iowa organizer with the Iowa Main Street Alliance. The Main Street Alliance is a coalition of nearly 700 small business owners and was started in 2008. Sue?
Thanks, Adam. Thank you all for coming today. I am the organizer for the Iowa Main Street Alliance. I am also a small business owner, so I speak with two hats on today. Over the last couple of years, the words Main Street and small business have seemed to be a mantra with politicians. The small business owners we talk to are pretty tired of hearing their name taken in vain. In some cases, it almost seems like identity theft. Our small business owners agree that we need a balanced approach to addressing Iowa's economic situation. A balanced approach is a better alternative than relying so heavily on spending cuts that we fail to meet people's basic needs and fail to invest in the economy Iowa wants and needs for the future. Small businesses grow when demand increases. When adding jobs, we don't look at the state tax rate or tax cuts. We're looking at the services we provide and what we need to maintain our standards and meet customer needs. When our communities are doing well, our small businesses thrive and jobs are created. Speaking of job creation, small business owners are looking for an educated workforce. Where we have an advantage in Iowa is in the strength of public education. Not only does something like public pre-kindergarten save families thousands a year in expenses, It is a bedrock of an educated labor force and gives potential employees and companies confidence in raising a family in a state where their kids will get a great education. The governor needs to take the lead in protecting vital public services and recognizing our state's strengths and weaknesses. Cutting revenue is not the answer. Strengthening communities is the key, and this is accomplished by maintaining adequate funding for programs such as education, healthcare, and public safety. When businesses thrive, it is because of the overall strength of a state, a well-educated, healthy workforce, a social and cultural climate that is appealing, and most importantly, customers who can buy their product or use our services. Small businesses agree we need a balanced approach. That is how we can meet people's needs today and make sure our economy continues to grow in the future. Our next speaker is kind of a fill-in, so Andy Kozloff is with the Des Moines Fire Department, and he's going to tell us firsthand how investing in public safety is important for all Iowans. Andy?
Hi there, I'm Andy Kossoff with Des Moines Professional Firefighters Local 4. It's a little hard to stand here and hear of budget surpluses and excess money and have cities make cut after cut in all departments, including public safety. And just in the city of Des Moines in the last 2 budget cycles, we've lost multiple people and multiple rigs out of service that we're not providing, or it's much more difficult to provide the services that the people deserve and are in fact paying for. We would love to see the state work with the cities and move some of that money back so funding is available to increase the numbers that are needed to provide these services. So again, we work hard to provide the people with the necessary emergency services, police, and additional budget money in that direction is part of that infrastructure that we need to bolster in the entire state.
Next, we'll hear from Michelle Bertuzik. She's the Earned Income Tax Credit Program Coordinator with Iowans for Social and Economic Development. And she's involved with Iowa families who are working to make a better life for themselves and their children.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I have to start out by, when I was sharing with citizens of Iowa what I would be doing today, they said they'd be here if I said, I am. So, I am. Thank you for being here. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the 11,711 taxpayers that the Iowa Social and Economics Development VITA program, EITC program, assisted last year in free tax preparation. This was done on behalf of 729 volunteers who between the months of November and April chose to assist taxpayers, whether it was snowing, raining, sleeting, they were there to help people. I can speak also on behalf of single parents in Iowa, as I am a single parent. It would be hard to overstate the importance of receiving the big tax refund for a family that works with children who is earning only a living wage or less in Iowa. I've personally seen the reaction in people's faces, I've heard it with my own ears, and I've seen their tears. Last year, the average refund for the low-income people we served was in the $3,000 to $4,000-ish. Due to variations in families and expenses, there is no way that I can estimate the amount of refund for anyone. For the vast majority of taxpayers we assist, that refund check is the largest lump sum of cash they will have all at one time. They use this money to get new tires so they can continue to work, so they can catch up on their energy bills, so they can catch up on their rent for the local landlords who are willing to work with them. This money isn't spent to go to Disney World. It's not typically spent for a big screen TV. It's spent so they can catch up. There are times when these families receive 25 to 30% of what they earn in the entire year. Our coalition coalition members work with these families to educate them on financial education, to start a bank account, as many of them are not banked. We encourage them to put money aside so they have a little bit of cushion and they don't have to wait until next year for that bonus. The statewide coalition that I assist in organizing is made up of 25 local nonprofit organizations that offer these free preparation sites. We had 89 sites last year in over 50 counties with outreach to all 99 counties. If someone couldn't get to a site, they could mail in their information, we prepare their tax return, mail it back to them, we get it done. They have to go nowhere. All at no cost to them. The coalitions include many United Ways, community action agencies, ISU Extension organizes in many rural towns and counties, Iowa Legal Aid, RSVP chapters, churches, and many more. The local coalitions recruited and trained, as I said, and certified over 729 volunteers last year. They are certified with the IRS, they are trained, and they choose to train on their own in classroom settings, online training, but they make a choice to do this. Most of our volunteers who assist do it more than 1 year, and most of them choose to upgrade their level of certification every year. The reason, they tell me, is the gratification they get from helping people who need the assistance. This past year, I have heard many heartwarming stories of what these working families are planning to do with their refunds. I'd like to share a couple of stories with you, but I'm sure there are many more. A gentleman who spoke very limited English came to our office with a letter from the IRS indicating he had not filed his return since 2005 and he was in serious violation. Initially, he met with a volunteer tax preparer. His 2005 return showed him owing $8,000. He began to worry. He was out of work. He was a single parent with 3 children. This particular volunteer was very patient, assured him that things were going to be okay. The volunteer spent 7 hours in 1 day with one client, working through all of his tax returns. At the end of the day, he was receiving a refund for 2008, 2009, 2010, and 11, in excess of $25,000. He would have received a refund from 6 and 7, but missed the deadline to file. After the volunteer explained the good news to him, he began to cry. He shared with the volunteer that he had this image that the IRS would take him away and that his children would be left without a family. The volunteer assured him he would have enough money to pay off his balance and have money left. The volunteer took it a step further, and they called the IRS. The IRS are wonderful people, but you're on hold for a very long time. They took the time to straighten it out, they made a payment plan, and it was taken care of. He praised the tax volunteer with many wonderful words, and again, this is a free tax service. He wrote a check for $100 in her honor and donated to their program. Another VITA client said, I have been going through some hardships for the past year. My mother was diagnosed with cancer and I lost my job after being there for 20 years. I have to tell you that thanks to VITA, I was able to get the money I needed when I needed it most. Thank you for what you do. While preparing a 2011 tax return for a client, a VITA tax preparer noticed inconsistencies between this year's return and 2 previous years. Upon careful review and further questioning, the preparer determined that previous 2 years had been filed incorrectly. The preparer was able to amend the previous 2 years, which resulted in the taxpayer receiving an additional $8,000. This could not have come at a better time, as she had just been informed her position as a paraeducator had been eliminated. As you can tell from these simple examples, low-income, working Iowa families use their tax refunds to maintain financial self-sufficiency and end up putting every bit of it right back into the local economy. It is hard for me to imagine a more deserving group of taxpayers than those eligible for the Earned Income Tax Credit. Finally, increasing the tax refund also honors the work of the volunteers who give up their talent and time to help their neighbors. Their willingness is the best measure of worthiness in this entire group. Thank you again for this opportunity.
past decade, due to the recession and 2 state budget crises, have resulted in damage to our public systems we now need to restore. This needs to be job one of the next General Assembly. With our current budget surplus, elected officials need to understand what so many Iowans and local communities already know. The time for cuts is over. We can afford to invest in our public services, in education, and in our infrastructure. As Iowans, we demand that our governor and elected officials commit to using the state's $1 billion surplus wisely, investing in Iowa schools, community colleges, universities, fire and police departments, the nursing homes and home health workers public funding supports. We are not the them of big and wasteful government. We are the us of hardworking Iowans trying to make Iowa a better place for us all. Thank you. Our speakers are available if anyone has any questions.
The chair of the House Ways and Means Committee says that we have to, he wants to hold the line. The reason that we have a surplus is because there was fiscal discipline. Does anybody want to respond to that?
Sure. You know, if we continue holding the line, that also means no commercial property tax cuts. So if this chair of the House Ways and Means Committee is serious about moving forward with that proposal, then we need to balance that out by closing corporate tax loopholes and looking for other revenue-raising options to hold that line, so that we can either maintain the surplus or continue to invest in vital public services, public safety, and infrastructure.
Let's be clear, when you say revenue enhancements, are you talking about tax cuts?
I'm talking about closing corporate tax loopholes and possibly ending certain subsidies or subsidies that aren't working.
Realistically, what do you think the chances are? I mean, given at best if the legislature stays in split control, and another scenario would be Republicans controlling everything. But they've spelled out their plan. It's to cut income tax, corporate and personal. It's to cut or to lower commercial property tax.
Right. So that's a lot of what we've seen over the last 2 years is a lot of cuts, a lot of deregulation, a lot of opening up these policies. And you know, Iowa has weathered the recession better than a lot of states. I think we're all thankful for that. But moving forward, you know, if I wish we had a crystal ball so we could look and see what happens. You know, what do we wake up to on November 7th? Regardless of who's controlling the House and who's controlling the Senate, I think what we're here saying today is that we all need to come together and do what's best in budgeting for Iowans. And we have $1 billion surplus, so we can actually afford to start reinvesting in public services that have suffered over the last 4 to 5 years.
And when you talk about $1 billion surplus, that includes over $600 million that's in cash reserve and emergency funds.
Correct.
Are you saying they should spend that down, not just the ending balance?
I think, you know, on behalf of the coalition, I'm not sure I can speak up to that on behalf of the coalition. What I would feel comfortable saying is that we don't have to worry. You know, those rainy day funds are there for a reason, and it's been raining the last 4 years. We've still managed to build up those rainy day funds while making cuts to our schools, our public services, and our infrastructure is suffering. So even though the economy is recovering now, I think that's why we feel that talk about more cuts is misguided, and that if we start looking at a balanced approach, possibly raising more revenues, we can afford to start investing more in these same areas that have taken cuts over the last 4 years.